नमस्कार आनंद सर।
गुड मॉर्निंग, क्या हाल चाल है?
बढ़िया सर।
अरे गोयल साहब आए कि नहीं?
हाँ, उन्होंने ज्वाइन तो किया है।
अच्छा,
गुड आफ्टरनून सर।
गुड आफ्टरनून। नमस्कार।
सर क्या हाल है भाई साहब? हेलो
ठीक है, विजय तुम्ही दिसतो
क्या हाल है?
कैसे हो जी?
हेलो वाधवा जी, अंकल जी नमस्कार।
तो आई थिंक सर 2-3 मिनट्स रुक जाते हैं, उसके बाद स्टार्ट करते हैं। 2-3 मिनट्स रुक जाते हैं, उसके बाद स्टार्ट करते हैं।
ठीक है, नो हरी, नो
ठीक है सर।
हाय अश्विन, हाउ आर यू?
फाइन।
आप भी हो? अरे ग्रेट।
गुड आफ्टरनून
भाई साहब बड़ी दूरों लोग सुनेंगे ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ऐसी गल ना।
हाँ
चलो गोयल साहब, गुड मॉर्निंग सर। गोयल साहब नमस्कार जी।
सर नमस्कार नमस्कार नमस्कार।
जब गोयल साहब का प्रोग्राम हो तो लोग तो बहुत दूर दूर से आएंगे ही।
सर थैंक्स अ लॉट, थैंक यू वेरी मच फॉर योर ऑनर। संकल्प, इसमें ये फाइल शेयरिंग का गूगल का बटन
क्या बोल रहे हैं?
ये जो प्रेजेंटेशन शेयरिंग का ऑप्शन क्या है?
मैं कर दूं शेयर?
नहीं, आप तो कर ही दोगे। आई एम जस्ट ट्राइंग टू लर्न। मुझे
यहाँ पे एक ना एरो बना होता है, उसमें नीचे उसमें प्रेजेंट नाउ का ऑप्शन होता है।
प्रेजेंट नाउ, उसमें एंटायर स्क्रीन और विंडो दो ऑप्शन दिए हैं उसने।
आप विंडो वाला सेलेक्ट कर सकते हैं।
विंडो वाले में ये कुछ सिलेक्टिव विंडो और स्क्रीन।
अब उसमें विंडो वाले में ना आप लेकिन प्रेजेंटेशन खुली होनी चाहिए और स्लाइड शेयरिंग वाले मोड में होनी चाहिए।
खुली हुई थी। प्रेजेंटेशन खुली हुई है। तो खुली हुई है भैया। ये आई नहीं रही फाइल, यही मैं देख रहा था। उसमें दिखा नहीं रहा है मेरी। आनी चाहिए, फाइल खुली हुई है। फायरफॉक्स दिखा रहा है बस ये। चलो एनीवे लीव इट, नहीं दिखा रहा। आई डोंट नो, देयर मस्ट बी सम डिफेक्ट।
ठीक है, मैं खोल देता हूँ सर।
ऑल्टर टैब से आएगा सर, ट्राई कीजिए।
है
ऑल्टर टैब।
ऑल्टर टैब।
जी संकल्प जी, कुछ कह रहे थे आप? हेलो संकल्प सर, आई एम ऑडिबल?
हाँ जी हनी जी, यू आर ऑडिबल। स्टार्ट करते हैं सर।
हाँ ठीक है, नो प्रॉब्लम।
हनी जी स्टार्ट।
Okay, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. I, CMA Honey Singh, on behalf of CP Study Circle Center Delhi, welcome you all for today's webinar on performance costing system for the Indian Railways. I am extremely thankful to Shri CMA B B Goyal sir for sparing their valuable time today, and also thankful to Shri CMA Sankalp Wadhwa ji for arranging such a useful webinar. It is my honor to share with you all a brief introduction of Shri B B Goyal sir. Shri CMA B B Goyal sir is ICoAS, BCom, MA Economics and FCMA. He is a former Additional Chief Advisor Cost, Ministry of Finance. He is presently serving as advisor in the MARF and adjunct faculty at the Institute of Corporate Affairs. He earlier served as chairman of IOB Registered Valuer Foundation. He also served as an independent director on the boards of Central Coalfields Limited, and also served as independent director of the boards of Rama Gudam Fertilizer and Chemical Limited. He was also a member of the high-level committee to advise on valuation standards. Welcome, sir. Now, again, it is my pleasure to share with you all a brief introduction of Shri CMA Sankalp Wadhwa ji. CMA Sankalp Wadhwa ji is FCMA, ACA, BCom and DISA qualified. He is certified SAP co-consultant. Also completed executive education program from IIM Ahmedabad in leadership and finance. He did his internship from PwC. He is currently partner in cost accounting firm Chandra and Company, and also convener of CMA Central Delhi CP Study Circle. He is also a co-opted member of the IT committee and CAASB, Cost Auditing and Assurance Standard Board of the Central Council Committee of the Institute of Cost Accountant of India. Welcome, sir. Now, I request our speaker, Shri CMA B B Goyal sir, for the presentation. Sir.
Thank you, Honey. Thanks a lot. Good morning to all the friends sitting today. It's my pleasure to share with you a glimpse of short of the performance costing system in Indian Railways. Before we go into the details of this system, we understand the gimmicks and all that. Just to give you a very quick feedback that it was a very, very important assignment for the institute to develop a system for such a mammoth organization. It was a challenge on its own. Never so far we have within the government or outside has developed that level of system which has so much of complications, so much of complexities and so many of issues to be addressed and all that. So it was definitely a huge challenge. And most of the people didn't have much of exposure of how in fact, not only talking of exposure, how to design a system, but then no exposure, what is the pattern of the railways, how do they run and all that, how do they operate, and what are the complexities of railway system. That is one part. The second part is that this particular developing a costing system for Indian Railway, a lot of experts had spent enough time earlier. I am not going to name all those experts, including some of the global experts had spent a lot of time. They had given their reports to the Indian Railways, which were not accepted. So this particular, our study report has not only been accepted by the Indian Railways, they have very widely appreciated it, and they are going to implement this report as soon as their process starts and all that. So it's going to be a very, very sizable achievement. We are going to share the important parameters, the difficulties and all that what we face today. And of course, to understand the real operational components of the system and then the challenges and all that, it requires much longer discussion. We'll not go into those details, but surely I am sure that at the end of today's program, you will have a fair idea of what exactly was the requirement and what the system system parameters and system designations were there. So we go to the next slide. Please, who is operating the slides? Yeah, fine. So these are the broad 5 parts which we are going to share. First, a quick view about the unique features of that's very important for you, anybody to understand. You know, whenever we undertake any such assignment of any company, any organization, first we understand the organization, first we understand its operation, first we understand its functions. So we are in the part 1 going to understand what is database, what are the type of functions and all that. Then the glimpse of the existing costing system in the Indian Railways. They already had a system which was adopted some 50, 60 years back. There was by the global experts. The Indian government also adopted that system. That was the system in view. Then third part, we are going to have what is the performance costing system and how the data flows in the performance costing. What are the advantages and limitations of implementing the PCS? Go to the next slide. Next slide, I think. Yeah, go to the next. Now, this is very important for you to understand that first, rail transport is a network and the railway services are spread all across the country, all across the length and breadth. It is not limited that from one point to another point. It's a journey. It is a journey which has complexities involving all the length and breadth of the country, involving large number of complexities, including different types of routes, different type of terrains, different type of culverts, different type of trains, different type of, in fact, the tracks and all that. For example, there are certain special tracks made only for the army movement, only for the strategic movement and all that. So those are called strategic lines. So like that, there are special. Similarly, there are some lines drawn only to attract the tourists for the hill stations and all that. So those are narrow gauge train lines which are only limited purpose and only limited traffic can be run on those. So like this, there are a lot of complexities in terms of this network. And therefore, it is not a very homogeneous, what we call it a single product company or single service company. It is not that kind of system. It's very complex network which has all kind of complexities in terms of different type of trains, different type of rolling stock, different type of tracks, different type of routes and all that, different type of sections. So it has a lot its limitations. Similarly, the similar trains are run on the same track. You run the passenger trains on the same track. You run the freight trains. Then the track, some tracks are some tracks are dual, where you have the electric trains also you can run the diesel trains also, you can run even the coal steam trains. So there are different type of features which are available within the same system. And then the rail transport, for any reason, every transport system is perishable. Once a train is run from point A to B, whatever is the capacity unutilized, that goes waste. It cannot be restored. So all services are of this nature, that once a service is rendered, whether it's a power generation, power distribution and all that, once it is rendered, even if it gives a 50% benefit, the balance cannot be restored. And has a huge component of common cost joint. As I told you the example that the same track, the same system, same overhead system and all that is helping all type of services, including their own material trains, including their own different type of trains which they run and all that. It's not only they provide services to you, services to the outsiders, they also provide services within the railways also to each other for running their railways and all that. They also run their fuel trains. Then operational parameters and the efficiencies differ very widely. Gentlemen, in the network, you can't expect that with the same speed the trains are being run on all the entire railway network throughout the country. You have seen that different tracks, different routes have different type of trains which have type not only in terms of its speed, not only in terms of its length and breadth, not only in terms of its facilities, not only in all type of complexities exist in the train system and all that. So it has a lot of different type of efficiency, inefficiencies and all built into that. So therefore, so this is how we look at that. What is if you put the entire railway system in a simple route, we have a line. We convert that line into a track. Track is then taken up from a point A to point B, convert into a route. Then on that route we run a train. Then train has different type of classes and it takes passengers or it takes the freight and all that. Now what is inputs goes into the rolling stock is the input. The repair and maintenance is a service. Then the support services. Then it is all distributed across different zones and divisions. So finally, my passenger is the cost object in a case of passenger train. It is nothing, all our support services to take the passenger from a point A to point B in a particular class. That is my cost object finally. Okay. Next. Now this is what we normally in a quick we put the primary lines of business or the service of the company. We have different type of suburban trains. We have non-suburban trains, which includes your. I have not given the entire list. I have only given you some examples. Rajdhani, Shatabdi, Duranto, tourist trains. You are all familiar. There are much more than 50, 60 types of different trains. I have not put the entire list. Similarly, in the classes also, there are different types of classes. There are a few more classes which have been added now slowly. Like Vande Bharat and all that, there are different classes. So it is not a very complete list. I have just given an example for you to understand that these are the different lines of business or lines of service of the train railway system. Next. Similarly, in the freight, it carries the different types of commodities, the coal, iron ore, cement. For different type of transporting products, different type of wagons are used. For example, for transporting fuel, petroleum, oil, lubricants and all that, different type of containers are required. Similarly, for transporting coal, maybe the open wagons are required and all that. For transporting food grains, the closed wagons are required because you can't allow it to be spoiled with rain or anything else. It cannot be. So like this, then we have parcel or luggage services, your departmental trains, which we call the material trains. Then pilot trains are run to test a particular line, or in the initial line and all, or when BBIP has to move on a particular route, a pilot train runs ahead of that BBIP train to ensure that there is no possibility of an accident on that train and that. So mail services and the sundry services like that, there are complexity of different type of services and all that. Next. In addition, railway has its own construction and activity, which includes your construction of new lines or the gauge conversion from narrow gauge to meter goes to broad gauge, standard gauge, like that. Doubling of the tracks, doubling of the routes, yard remodeling or road safety, level crossing, road crossing, underbridge, overbridge, and all that. Track renewals, signaling, and telecom system, all active. So, a lot of our construction activity has to be undertaken. It also undertake many deposit PPP mode, some deposit of new lines. For example, if a company wants to a steel plant, within the steel plant wants to have an extended line inside in its plant. Now that line can be drawn with the help, because everybody doesn't have the expertise to how to construct a railway line. So that expertise lies with the railway people only. So you can request the railways that you draw the line, we will pay for it. So under that system also they do the construction. Then it has its own production units, production for the engines, production of various type of wagons, various type of coaches. So it has a different type of, including the wheels, engine wheels, and those coach wheels and all that. They have different type of factories, different type of locals, different type of coaches, different type of wagons are, as I told you, open wagons, covered wagons, flat wagons, refrigerated vans or tankers, containers, different, so many types of EMUs, DMUs, and all that are constructed. So it has all encompassed all type of activities, including not only providing you a service, also producing those required infrastructure, constructing those kind of infrastructure. That is also part of the railway system. So we are trying to understand what does the railway mean. Fine, next. Then see, in the maintenance and support services, it's very, very important. Gentlemen, you please understand that in the railway operational system, one of the most important activity is maintenance. If your track and your stock, railroad rolling stock, is not maintained up to the standard, there can be anytime any major accident which can run into loss of hundreds and thousands of lives. So therefore, maintenance is one of the most important function in the operation of railway system. So it is whether it is not only to allow the system to run, but also to ensure that there are no accidents which can happen. So it is maintaining all type of assets, including all type of your railway stations, stocks, telecommunication, signaling system, and all that. And your workshop, it has for that purpose various types of workshops, sheds, depots, yards, maintenance facilities, and all that. Similarly, it has a lot of research facilities, training facilities, your autonomous bodies, your huge network railway has. I mean, for anybody, it's very difficult to imagine that what kind of system they run. For that type of organization to devise a costing system, you can now very well imagine that how difficult it is. How do you capture that kind of cost and all that? Next. This is the list I have given: the administrative services, the other units with the research centers, RDSO Lucknow, Core Allahabad, Comfort New Delhi, like that, centralized training institutions. They have so many training. This is only centralized list. If you look at the decentralized list of training institutions, they run into hundreds. Similarly, they have all over the country railway recruitment boards. They have railway rate tribunals. They have railway claim tribunals throughout the country. They incur a huge cost. So how do you capture that cost? Where should it go? It's very difficult. Similarly, they have two autonomous bodies. They have a lot of PSUs, but I'm talking of two autonomous bodies. One is the CRIS, which is with respect to their railways information systems, which design the entire IT applications and operate the IT applications. Next is the Railway Land Development Authority, RLDA, which is now monetizing all the railway assets, railway surplus lands and all that. These are the two autonomous bodies. They have a lot of PSUs under the railway system. Next. This is the how the railway controls the system. It has been divided itself into 17 zones throughout the country. Instead of 17 different companies, the entire network is divided into 17 zones, and each zone is controlled by a zonal manager, which is of the rank of the Secretary to Government of India. It's a very, very prestigious position. So the entire network, you can see it's not updated data, but then this is how the route kilometers under each zone and the number of stations under each zone and how much of that is electrified route also is available and what the headquarters of each zone. Now that zonal headquarters, zonal system is by itself a separate railway, you can say. They have their own system. They run their own trains within the zone also. They also run the trains, interzonal trains. So when there are interzonal trains, the more than one zone becomes operational. When within the zone a train is run, then more than one divisions within the zone become operational. So all those you have to capture the data at that ground level, that how under each division or under each section or under route, under each zone, the operations of that train has been done. And what is the cost incurred at that point? Where it is captured in the books, because it has a decentralized system also. Each division within the zone, there are more than 300 divisions within the 17 zones. So each division's data you have to keep a track, and no such train. There are very few trains you will find they run within the same division. Most of the trains they run within the same zone but interdivisional. Okay, so but there are it's it's a low complexity. I will show you in the map next. This is how you can see the network of the railways. All are irrespective of the area. It's all interconnectivity of the routes, trains, and all that. Now, in this kind of system, when you want to capture the cost of one of the route from any point to any point, which involves different type of zonal controls, which involves different type of facilities, which involves different type of terrains, and also, then how do you capture the cost? It requires different type of complexities. That's what the real challenge lies. Next. So this was the railways entire project, accounting reforms project they had undertaken about 7-8 years back, which had 3 components: accrual accounting, performance costing, and the outcome budgeting. Accrual accounting job is being done by the Institute of Chartered Accountants. Performance costing we have done. Outcome budget is internally they are doing within the railways. So this is the job which we are going to discuss today, the performance costing system. We also had a close interaction with the CA Institute with respect to their accrual accounting system, because some of the changes which they may be making in their finance code system, they would have a relevance with my costing system also. So we had a close interaction that what type of changes to be made in their existing financial system, so that it also help not only the accrual accounting, it helps the capturing of the various cost components also. Next. Now we go to the part 2. Next. This is the what we call the existing costing system. So railway cost structure. Next million. These are broadly, if you classify the railway costs, we have the rail network infrastructure cost, which has 2 components, construction cost and production cost. Both are infrastructure. Construction of railway network, lines, routes, tracks, and also overheads and all that, electric overheads, everything, road stations, platforms, workshops, sheds, all these are construction activities. Then production of your engines, rolling stock, wagons, coaches, everything is your production facilities. Then the operational cost in operations. Then third is corporate overheads. Then common cost and joint cost, which are then divided into fixed cost and the variable cost. This is all the broad. Let's going to discuss what do we mean by the details of each. Next. Infrastructure cost. It covers the capital and maintenance cost for the track, for engineering structures such as bridges, tunnels, etc., train signaling system, communication system, power supply in the electrified sections, terminal infrastructure meaning stations, yards, etc., your maintenance infrastructure meaning in the form of workshop sheds where the maintenance of various facilities, various infrastructure is done. Now, if you really look at a broad thumb rule principle is 70% of this is fixed or invariable with the level of usage, 30% is variable with the traffic level. This is a thumb rule. It is not sure that in Indian Railways this is a global system which we says that the infrastructure costs can keep on changing. The maintenance cost can keep on varying depending on the volume of traffic and volume of or the level of traffic or the type of traffic you are running, type of trains you are running. The maintenance cost can undergo a change. Next. And then the operational cost. Now it includes the diesel fuel or the electrical fuel with the fuel cost, locomotive capital, your depreciation of the leasing out cost and all that, maintenance cost, driving crew, which we call the driving driver, they call the now pilot, train pilot. It's not called driver. They call the train pilot, and also there is instead of we call the guard, they have a guard at the end also. On-board crew for the passenger trains, rolling stock wagons or coaches depreciation or the leasing cost, rolling stock maintenance, terminal operations, both end. Terminals are both starting and end terminals. At the start point when the train is starting, in terms of passenger trains, what facilities are to be provided in case of goods train, what type of facilities at the starting point do we given, how do we load our goods train. Similarly, at the end terminal, what type of terminal operations are to be done. Then the commercial cost in terms of passenger booking or the freight booking, your paperwork done and all that, and your in train, your all these kind of support services which are required. So these are all operational costs. This is I'm just giving you a hint of not going into exact penny by penny that exactly. There are hundreds of heads under which all these costs are captured. Next. Overheads. In railway system, as I told you, we have a railway board. Railway board is the supernumeric authority controlling the operations in terms of policy parameters of all the zones. And each zone is again headed by its zonal manager. It has its own zonal control system. But that executive total management, which includes board and the zonal management, including the functions in terms of finance, legal, security, personnel, etc., which all of you understand, they are all overhead type of functions which are jointly done. Because in this case, you cannot have a finance department with a train. You cannot have a finance department with a station and all that. These are all centralized type of functions and all. Fine. Next. Virtually, we had divided the overheads into 4 different stages. Overheads at the top level, overheads at the zonal level, overheads at the division level, then overheads at the workshop level or at the field level and all. So we had divided. So there are 4 different types of common or joint costs. As I told you, majority of the costs in railway is a common or the joint cost. This is one of the major problems. Okay. Because there are a lot of joint costs. For example, when a train has run from A to B point, then it takes turnaround. From at the B point, he has to go back to the A point. So the turning operation is a joint for the route from A to B and also B to A. So that turning operation is joint between the 2 routes. So whatever activity is done there in terms of cleaning of the train or in terms of preparation of the train or in terms of shunting of the station train and all that, that all is a common operation between the two different types of train operations and all that. Okay. What is the Then we have common cost because the lines are having a mixed use. The same line can be used for passenger train, for the freight train. Majority of the network costs are common, and therefore you have to find rationalized drivers to distribute the cost to the different cost activities and also to different cost objects. Finally, to find it. So this is where the complexity lies. First, capturing the cost, and then capturing the cost, and then transporting that cost with the help of a right cost driver to a particular cost object. That is the challenge lies. Next. Now we go to the features of the existing system further. Presently, what the railway costing was doing, that they were following the fully distributed cost system, meaning they are not going to the activity-based costing, what we normally call the top-down approach, where the total costs are captured under the broad heads and total operations are taken at the year end and then divided by the numerators, you get the per unit cost. No, it is not averaged cost. It is not the actual cost belonging to a particular class. For example, in a same train, you have the first class bogie, you also have the second class, you also have different type of class. Now, the same train is going from point A to B, carrying all three different class of passengers. Now, how do you distinguish the cost attributing to the different class of passengers? It's very difficult in this system and all that. So certain costs may be common, certain costs may be attributed to a particular coach only. So like this, when in the same track, you run the same type of commodities, it's comfortable, fine. When you run the different type of commodities, there are mixed commodity trains also. In the same train, some of the wagons carrying say cement, some of the other wagons are carrying some other material like that. Mixed freight is being carried. It's very difficult to attribute to. When there are perishable goods, for example, your fruits and vegetables, these are perishable goods. So that they get a priority in terms of train movement. So there is a time lost. Similarly, when there are accidents, so there is a huge traffic diversions. There are huge traffic losses. So in this, the present system, they are not taking any kind of these kind of abnormalities in capturing the cost of all that. They are simply going by a fully distributed cost. The numerators and denominators are captured at the zonal level, and then the totals are made. Out of the totals, the average is worked out, and that average is assigned to the per unit cost of. Next. Sankalp, next slide. This is what the stepwise, what they do. They first take the total cost. They first divide the total cost into three gauge: broad gauge, meter gauge, and narrow gauge. Largely, 95% we have broad gauge only. We have few meter gauge and also a few narrow gauge facilities in the country. So we have to divide the cost is captured. As I told you, there is no cost captured gauge wise. So on certain basis they divide into all three. Then your broad gauge goes into the EMU and the coaching services and the goods services. From the coaching, we find the passenger coaching and the other coaching. Other coaching means your parcel services or other type of facilities which they provide. From there, you work out the unit cost. These are the broad stepwise. How do they go in a step-by approach and find out the ultimately unit cost of passenger or the unit cost of commodity transported per ton coal, per ton kilometer, steel or whatever type of commodity there. This is the present system. They follow the present steps. Next. unit cost of the coaching, in case of coaching, unit cost is derived by dividing, as I told, the expenditure, including depreciation and lease charges allocated to the rail. This is worked out for each type of train services, for each passenger class, and for each zonal railway separately. It is so called, what they call that we are working for 17 zones separately, because they have zonal data also. In the zonal data, they do the zonal working, and then the combined working is after the board, which are the common centralized training institutions, centralized recruitment boards, or the railway board expenditure, all which are called the common overheads, general overheads, they are distributed to the various zones. So in this broad composition, they have the terminal cost. Terminal, as I told you, both side terminal. Line haul cost is the do the working of the unit cost of the passenger or the unit cost of freight services. Next. Terminal expenses include, in case of passengers, the booking office, ticket checking, reservation inquiry, your special service in case of waiting rooms, luggage room, platform inspectors, passenger guide, and also miscellaneous services, provision of maintenance of platforms, washing, cleaning, ticket examination. TXR is ticket checker examination, shunting, which I told you, the train shunting, formation of passenger trains, or formation of the various different coaches and all that. Now, these are all different type of activities which happen at a terminal. So therefore, these are all terminal rented expenses, which are part of my terminal activity and all that. Next. Line haul cost. What constitutes your line haul cost? I give the 4 types. Terminal line haul cost. Line haul cost is your traction cost. When a train is run from, engine is pulling the train from point A to B. That is called the traction of the train. So how it is done? It is run on the basis of the engine runs. Engine is operated on a fuel. Whether that fuel is diesel or coal or electric. Coal, of course, is very less used now. Very few samples are available. Then maintenance of those facilities for the traction. Track facilities, OHE facilities, depreciation, etc. That is all is the traction cost. Then the track and signaling cost, the track maintenance, signaling maintenance, and of course the interest depreciation. Then other transportation cost, which includes your maintenance of various other structures, train passing staff, your depreciation, your various other sports services which are provided. Then the maintenance of various coaches or the wagons. That also is part of the including line haul cost. Then next, the third is overheads. Now overheads are those which are, we understand what is overheads. They are divided into, the headquarter expenses are divided into general management, financial management, personal management, and material management. Then expenses on the staff welfare and amenities, which are in the form of residential facilities or the welfare buildings, educational, medical. They have their own hospitals. They have their own schools. They have their own education facilities. They have their own training centers. They have sports facilities, huge number of sports facilities. So all sort of expenses are incurred within the railway system. Then it's very difficult to. Then the other point is retirement benefits. Now, it's very difficult. A person has served the railway for whatever 20, 30 years. In that 30 years, he may have served 3 different zones. At the end of whichever zone he has retired, his pension is being paid through that zone. Where the cost is going to be booked, where his cost is going to be captured. It's very difficult, the cost of retirement benefits. How do you really load it on the present activities, and in what form? In what should be the right driver? Then the miscellaneous staff, your safety, railway police force, staff training, etc. All those kind of expenses, they are part of the overheads now. Right? Next. Then central charges. Expenses is classified as central charges. This is what the present system we are talking of, not the new system we are. And that board includes some of the centralized institutions expenditure. This is under their demand number 1 and 2, which they run. And the entire expenditure is captured separately under demand number 1 and 2. And peculiar method. They don't have any concept of actual concept of depreciation. They don't have actual concept of interest. Depreciation in you may be surprised to know that in some zones it was a negative depreciation. Now it will be a big question mark for anyone to ask how the depreciation figure can be negative. But it was a very peculiar accounting system which the railway is following. So therefore, the depreciation of the assets booked or the method at which they are calculating is very complex and very peculiar to understand, and not though they call it a straight line method they are following, though they have also defined the life of the assets and all that, but actually it is not operating so simply, so simple. It's a very complex system of calculating the depreciation. Similarly, till 3-4 years back, railway used to present a separate budget. Government of India, that's the budget for which Ministry of Finance was giving the budget. So it had separate budget. So whatever funds were, there was a transaction between the Ministry of Finance and the Railway Ministry. Now, whatever money the Finance Ministry has given to the railways for creating those assets, on that money, they have to pay either the interest or the dividend. Okay. Now, it was not possible because the railway is not called a commercial activity. It was considered as a social activity. So when it was considered as a social activity, both ways, neither this social activity is expected to pay interest on those funds, nor this is expected to pay dividend on those funds. So it was a very peculiar situation. Okay, now centralized funds, whatever the Government of India provides, it comes from there. It comes only either from taxes or from borrowings. There are no other source of funds for the Government of India. There are only two sources. We leave apart whatever foreign grants you get. That's a negligible component, less than 0.1% of my budget. But then the only two sources are your borrowings or your taxes. Your interest repayments or whatever dividends you earn on your investments in the PSUs and all that. These are the broad budgetary sources. Therefore, railway has a specialized system that the parliamentary committee will decide that what amount there should be a payment made to the Ministry of Finance on that amount which they have paid. That amount was actually, that also was not paid. It was all in books only, not paid. That is what is called the interest component charged in various interest calculations here. Okay, so it's a very peculiar system which was being followed in the case of railway. Even now also, now after the merger of the railway budget, that situation has undergone a change together. Next. Limitations broadly. The cost statements for zonal offices and the Indian Railway as a whole are prepared annually, which you must have seen majority of the companies are also doing like that. After the financial accounts are ready, they are after complete, even after that 1 year after that statistical data, both performance data and all that is compiled at the zonal level. Data is physical output is neither given in time nor it was considered to be accurate. In many cases, we found that it's inaccurate data and all that. and there is a lot of time lag between the actual occurrence of the activity and the actual incidence of cost and the capturing of that performance or the capturing of that cost in the system. So there was very less authentication or less checking was done. No such validation of the data was done is done and all that. So it's whatever is the data shared by the various zonal railways or the field estate, that is considered as the final data, and that is based on which the costing is done per unit, which I have just now shown you. Next. Next, Sankalp. Next, part 3 now. We are on the proposed costing system. This was the job given to the MRF, undertake a comprehensive study of the existing costing system in the Indian Railways, propose a suitable upgradation of the existing system to ensure managerial analysis of the costing data for efficiency improvements in key performance areas, and presenting a detailed costing framework in such a manner that could be built upon as an extension for the existing IT application. This is very, very important that they wanted an online IT-driven costing system. Complete. It was not an offline that after 6 months, after 1 year, you start preparing your cost statements for the year. No. They want a system which can be controllable, online IT-based application system. Next. संकल्प जल्दी जल्दी करो भैया, इतना टाइम नहीं लो. This was the outcomes from the system which they have designed to improve of, that's the broad heading, improve using
सर आवाज की प्रॉब्लम है.
सर वॉइस नहीं आ रही है आपका नेटवर्क से.
सर वॉइस है नहीं है.
सर थोड़ी आपकी वॉइस चली गई थी बीच में.
नहीं वो कनेक्शन वॉइस नहीं चली गई थी.
Okay.
Connection हुआ only we came back. So it was the expectation that provide the activity-wise costing data online to undertake evaluation of studies after commissioning of the assets. They wanted that after they have put a new line, how do we evaluate the performance of that asset? What is the system? What should be the mechanism to arrive at the appropriate pricing of the tariff decisions, to find out loss-making or the non-value-adding activities, to find controllable, non-controllable costs, and work out the economic break-even point for each activity, discover areas improvement for cost reduction, and generally to improve efficiency, productivity, cost competitiveness, and improve business planning, budgeting, resources, etc., etc. That was the ultimate outcome expected from this study. Next. Outcome, design a framework integrated accounting and costing architecture which could be converted into IT application. Just I am highlighting. Suggest such changes in their existing system, which we call the existing chart of accounts, to arrive at the cost, revenue, and profitability for the each line of business and the each line of service. Suggest a suitable changes in the existing financial accounting system and other ancillary systems for the online transfer of operational and financial data for the purpose of cost accounting. So that was the need. They already have a passenger reservation system. They have a freight operational system. They have workshop training system. They have huge number of IT applications. So we have to tell them they have a very good online financial accounting system. So how do we, what type of changes we make in their existing system so that with that changes, we can capture the online costing data. Next. Propose a new system to measure the cost, revenue, profitability, etc. for each line of business, each line of service, and each segment of service. New system to measure the profitability of parcel, luggage services, mail services, pilot trains. They wanted complete a different type of real activity-based costing, what you call it. Profitability of each zone, each division, each field unit. Profitability of separate production unit, etc. like that. Next. Now, in comparison to the existing costing system, performance costing system, which is basically activity-based costing approach, where we changed instead of top-down approach, we follow the bottom-up approach, where we go to the bottom of the activity, and then at that stage we capture the activities and we capture the activity costs. We find out the relevant activity drivers. Then we also find out the cost drivers and all that. In this methodology, cost of resources is used for different activities performed to various services with the help of activity cost drivers. And then the cost objects are different business segments, which just now I will give you that what are the different lines of business or different lines of service and all that. Then cost of activity is captured in the cost pools created at the activity cost centers. Operating performance of different activities used as the benchmark to determine the cost of different line of business, line of service, or segment of service. This system will give you more accurate cost of each activity, each function, each service and operation. This is about the glimpse of the new performance costing system which we built. And next. Now, this is what is line of business. See, they have so many activities as I gave you the initial slides. But all those activities are not revenue earning activities. For example, when you construct a line, that is not by itself generating any revenue until you do any operation on that line. Similarly, when you have a production unit for producing the railway engine, that unit is giving whatever engine is being produced are being handed over to the railways to operate. So they are not generating any revenue by sale of those engines in the open market or by any such activities. So what from those engines, with the help of those engines, run the trains, and with the help of what is the end line of business which generates revenue is the coaching services, meaning passenger services, and the freight services. These are the two revenue earning activities of these are the two basically lines of business. Next. Then under each line of business, we have the line of service. For example, under the passenger services, we have different gauge-wise, different type of passenger trains, suburban trains, and also different class of trains and all that. Similarly, under freight, we have different type of, depending on the type of the wagons used. I gave you the example, open wagons or flat wagons or different type of containers and all that. So we have 8 categories of lines of service under the freight category of line of business. Next. Then we come to the next stage of segment of service, where under the coaching services, we have total 23 different classes, which is called the segment of service. Then under the freight train, we have total number of 14 different type of commodities which we run. So these are the different classes which we classified as the different segments and all that. We go to the next slide. This shows under the passenger system, these are the lines of service, 14 different types of lines of service. Super premium trains, which we call Vande Bharat example. Premium trains, the Rajdhani, Shatabdi, Duronto, Gatiman, etc. Mail express trains, mixed mail express, ordinary services, EMU, MIMO, DIMO, parcel trains, departmental trains, express trains, medium gauge, then passenger services, then saloon, car, etc. passenger service. Similarly, under that, we have the segment of service, which are, these are first AC, second AC, third AC, like that. Different classes are there under the business. Next. Each has been, under this line of service, we have 8 different types of open wagons, closed wagons, hopper wagon, flat wagon type. Then all these type of services are used to transport. These are different category of commodities which we made. Okay, they have given a code. LOS, line of service, line of business also. For example, the line of service carries a code of 2101 for the open wagons. Now, 1 and 2 is for the line of business. 1 is for the passenger and 2 is for the freight. 101 is the type of wagons. 61 is the coal code. So if you put the activity of the a wagon, open wagon carrying coal, you will have the 210161 complete code. So that is the complete cost code which are attached to your existing finance code. Next. How do we process the data? So we have activity center where the activity is incurred. Then we have the activity center codes and the activity center pools. See, ACC code which has a account head code, which has a location code, and which has a unit code. Now, what the difference between that? Gentlemen, each activity is done at a different center. For example, at Delhi. Now, Delhi, we have different stations. Nizamuddin station, New Delhi station, Old Delhi station. Like that, we have different. Now, location is Delhi for all. So we have to assign a different unit code to different stations to find out that identify that from which within Delhi which center has actually operated there. Similarly, we have at places different sheds, more than one shed in the same station. So these are the type of codification system which we devised to understand that how the activity can be captured at a particular activity cost center. Okay, next. This is all you know in the costing. Cost is captured in the cost center, and cost center is this cost object consumes resources, and cost drivers are the drivers which drive the cost. And with the help of those drivers only we load the cost of activity to the cost object. Next. This is the activity cost center pools which why do we have to do the pooling of activity costs? For example, at the station, there are different type of small activities done. At the platform, you have the restrooms, you have the clean water facility, you have all those waiting room, you have luggage storage room, you have left luggage room, you have different type of, you have ticket checking facility also. So you have small activities at the same center, activity cost center, station. So these are called that all those activities are put into a pool. They belong to the same pool of the activity cost center. This is how we converted the entire into a activity cost center pool. Then all these activities which belong to the same class, same function, will go to the same functional cost center. So it will be starting from the sub-activity stage to the same activity pool, from the activity pool to the functional pool, from the functional pool it will travel with the help of those drivers to the operations. Fine, next. Flow of cost will be functional cost component of all ACCs plus your distributed overheads plus depreciation. Predefined cost drivers, with the help of those drivers, we arrive at the functional unit cost. This is, I mean, the simple step. It's not easy to understand so easily. Let's go to the next slide. This is what the grouping of the activity cost center cost pools into the functional component cost. Now, functional cost component 1, traffic. Everything related to the traffic, whether it's a ticket booking, ticket checking, or preparation of those goods receipt. These are all related traffic activity. They all belong to the same functional traffic, traffic related, which include ticket checker, everything. Your mechanical activity, your mechanical checking of the maintenance of the trains and all that, maintenance of checking of those, electrical, engineering, signal and telecommunication, material management, general management, all these are different functional pools. Similarly, all these have been classified based on the available best classification available in the railway system. We have devised all these functional classification. We have given those details supported with the actual. This is how in a zone. Once you implement this system in a zone, the same can travel into all other zones throughout the country. Next. We can skip this. Next. This is how the flow travels. From the finance data, see there are two sources of data. From the finance data, your cost figures will come. From your activity centers, your performance, your driver data will come. You got that these are two different sources of data. This is very important that until you both capture the cost belonging to an activity and also capture the activity at the same time, then no possible to link all the both together. That cost you travel to into a functional component, then from the functional component load it to the cost object. Next. Next. This is, I was telling you that they have their various IT applications. Now, ICoAS is their accounting system. MMSI is the material management system. All this, both the systems have their own, they created their own unit codes. They have created their own identification of centers. We said that you cannot have two different set of capturing the cost. You cannot define the a location differently for two different systems. You have to integrate it. Both accounting and the material management should identify each other within the same system identically. You cannot say that for material management, a New Delhi station meaning something different. For finance system, New Delhi station is defined separately. Said that it's not possible. You have to integrate it. You have to make it as one functional unit. That F2 is the F2 is the volume finance volume 2. That finance volume 2 finance code is very unique structure for where they were actually based on the activity cost centers. What we did is that since they were already having their F2 system in their financial accounting system, we said that you modify your finance system, ICoAS, capture our activity cost center code attached to their finance code to their present account head. So automatically my cost will belong to that activity. It will be system captured within the system. Because as if you recall in the beginning, I told you, the system we were to design in such a way that it has to be an IT-driven system, online system, not an offline system. Okay? So cost data with the ACC code will be created from the finance database. Expenditure will be allocated activity cost centers. Then expenditure data from the finance database are segregated to the cost components. That includes your employee salary, material and other expenses, etc. Then to the mapping of PU. PU is the primary units, which are in the nature of cost elements. For example, a cost incurred in terms of salary at a workshop, the salary of which level, that also is available in the existing finance code system. Whether worker, direct work labor, or it's a manager's salary or the general manager's salary, or who's means the supervisory staff salary and all that. Within that also, even the detailed component, how much the traveling paid to that employee, how much what the material consumed in that activity, that is also available in the, through the primary units. Or like that, they have about 90, I think, those primary units. So they have already classifications available. So what we did is that they had created the primary units for the purpose of reporting to the Minister of Finance and to the Parliament also. We were not requiring that type of classification. For example, to an employee, how much is the basic salary paid, how much is the DA paid. I don't need the bifurcation of these two costs. But for Parliament reporting and Finance Ministry reporting, it is required that how much is the HRA paid, because how much is the different allowances paid and all that. But for me, it is irrelevant that whether you have paid in the form of basic salary and then DA, HRA and all that. Why this is needed for the Finance Ministry? Because the Government of India has to then frame the policies that if I am going to revise the HRA at a level from existing 10% to 12%, what would be my implication on the budget? So how will they find out unless they have the base figures available with them? That is how the entire Government of India system is run. That in the salary, each component-wise details are fed into the system. From the system, it is available. Like this, they also have in their primary units all this, but we don't need it. For us, it is for under costing, the entire is cost. So we reclassified the primary units into our cost elements. The finance database having account heads will continue to process the financial data. Similarly, identification of cost components will help in better cost control measures. Next. These are some of the examples. For example, this running a pair of coaches. Present account head is this. Its location is Delhi. Unit is 1. Unit code is 1. So activity center code, what will be? 06021101 is your account code. NDLS is location code. And 1 is the unit code. Alpha, which wherever there was not a 4-digit available, only 3 digit was available, we put a 0 digit, blank digit. Okay. So alpha is alphanumeric type of thing. So like this, we created all this kind of entire system of extensions into cost codes. For example, Nizamuddin. So the unit was put 2. Like this, for different type of we created the ACC codes, activity center codes and all that. Account head, location code, unit code, this is equal to the account head ACC code. Next. Then this is, gentlemen, is very important. In railway system, workshop is one of the most important component of its operations. Entire maintenance of your rolling stock, your engine and your coaches and your wagons is done in the workshops. Major repairs. Minor repairs are done in the sheds. Major repairs are done in the major overhauls and repairs are done in the workshops. So workshop is a very big factory. Huge system is there. So it's very difficult to understand that it's not a small workshop which in normal connotation we understand. It's not like that. It's much bigger than you can find a steel plant and all that type of building. So they have huge workshops to run and operate all those. So we had to work out a separate costing system for the railway workshop because the huge cost is incurred in the workshops. So we devised a separate sub-costing system for the capturing the workshop costs. Similarly, we devised a sub-costing system for the production units. That how the production units cost should be captured, how the workshop cost should be captured and all that. This is how we have given a framework to them. Similarly, we devised a separate costing system for the capital activities. That when you are doing an infrastructure laying activity or infrastructure construction activity, how should you capture your capital cost and all that? Next. I think, Sankalp, these are some of the repetitions. We can skip all this. This is previous slide. Joint cost distribution methodology. This is very important, gentlemen. As I told you that this is one of the most important challenging tasks in a railway type of, because the same network is where it creates a lot of joint activities. Now, capturing the joint cost, capturing the joint activity, then finding the correct load. I will give you an example. Another peculiarity. A goods train moves from point A to B. For the return journey, it did not have enough traffic at point B. Meaning, whatever is the volume of goods it carried from the point A to B, on return journey at location B does not have the enough traffic available, free traffic available. It has to go from B to C. From C, it will come back to A. So there is a blank journey from point B to C. Or there may be a additional journey incurred because the train at B is not capturing sufficient freight volume. So I cannot run a train with 30%, 20% volume of traffic in a goods train. So therefore, I am taking the train from B to C to make it a full loaded train at point C, and then from C I come back to A. Now, this journey which has gone from B to C, it belongs to which activity? Whether it should entire cost should go to the goods which have been traveled on a return journey from B to A through C, or there is some cost of that should also go to the activity from A to B, because I have to go from A to B because A people wanted to go. Despite that, knowing very well I don't have the volume of traffic at B, I helped the people at A to take their goods from A to B, because the businessman want his goods to be transported from point A to B. As a railway manager, I know at point B I don't have a return traffic, but still I help the person. So whether the cost which is incurred from point B to C, a part of that cost should be loaded at the point for earlier route from A to B. So they are like this. I'm just giving you small example. In good olden days, I'm not these days it happens. In good olden days, the same engine. Now we have classified engines. A engine which is taking the passenger activity is taking passenger activity only. It doesn't change into freight activity. In earlier days, the same engine can be used one way in the passenger, another return way it can be freight train. Now it's very difficult that at the changeover point, how do you apportion the cost of that engine between the passenger activity and the freight activity? So like this, there are huge type of joint costs in the railway system. The same workshop is handling the goods wagons also, same coaches, same the engines also and all that. Same workshop is doing. Now, how do you capture the cost incurred belong to at the end of the cost object, whether it is for the transportation of the coal activity, whether that engine has been repaired for that purpose, How do you track the cost? How do you track the activity incurred to that ultimate cost objective is to find the cost of taking 1 ton of coal to 1000 kilometers. Ultimately, my cost objective is that. Similarly, in case of passenger, my cost objective is to take one passenger from point A to B in a particular class. How do I track that cost? Because my costs are in my actual occurrence of cost happens at hundreds of places. It is not at one place that the cost is being incurred. So it is disaggregated places, and it does not happen within the same zone. It does not happen within the same division. It also happens in different zones, different divisions. So it's very all the more difficult because the data of each zone is maintained within the zone. So it's very difficult. How do you really capture the data? So therefore, this was one of the most challenging tasks for us to really devise that system. Next. This was the data collection. As I already explained you all that. We have made a lot of changes in there. We have suggested a lot of changes in their systems, IT systems also, at different location sheds, your diesel loco shed and all that. How do you capture this entire activity? Capturing is the most difficult job. Cost capturing is, we found is comparatively still better because better organized. The problem was capturing activity and linking that cost with the activity. Right? Next. This we can skip. I've already explained all that. Next. Commercial. These are the unit. What are the drivers used? For example, your commercial cost passengers. We use the passenger number of passengers as the driver. For operating service cost, train kilometer, the repair, maintenance, and operation mechanical, coaches, number of coach days, which was used for the each line of service or segment service. For track maintenance, running, gross ton kilometers, not net ton kilometers, gross ton kilometers were used. Why? Because each wagon has its empty wagon also has its weight. That is called a tar weight. Now, when that tar weight also has to be run, engine has to pull that empty wagon also. When the wagon is loaded, so the load on the track is of the load of the wagon and load of the goods. So it's a combined load, it is being pulled. So we have to then take the gross load, gross tonnage, which is being, that is how we have to take the important parameter in running the train kilometer. Next. This is, gentlemen, they have their classification system in terms of capturing the revenue. X, Y, or Z are the three different, what we call it, the ledgers they maintain. They call it as abstracts and all that. In X belongs to the passenger revenue, Y belongs to the freight revenue, and Z belongs to their other activities revenue. For example, when for a recruitment is done, railway asks for applications. In the application, they ask for 10 rupees as application fees. Now that 10 rupees, when 1 lakh people will apply for the railway job, so 10 lakh rupees will come, 10 rupees. So that 10 lakh rupees will be captured there. So that does not belong to X, that does not belong to Y. So that belongs to Z category. So like that, there are different types of category of income. For example, at the platform, they extend and give the platform to some hawker to run on the platform, that hawking shop and all that. So they charge some amount, or for advertisement also, some advertisement facilities are given. For parking also, certain parking facilities are done and all that. So these are different types of income revenues which are generated by the railway, for which they have a separate. Now, our problem was that how do we capture that data according to each activity. Activity, please understand, is ultimately my operation of the train, for which I have to do the costing. So this is where it lies the problem. I'll give you an example that in a train, a passenger train, there is a ticket checker. Now, ticket checker finds that two people were traveling without ticket. So he will give you the ticket, as well as he will charge you some penalty also. Okay, maybe whatever is the system. So that money will ultimately come back in the system. He will come back and deposit the money. Now, how will the system know that this money came and belonged to this train? It's very difficult. See, when similarly in a passenger reservation system, it's easier to know that the passenger has booked his service from point A to B in a particular train on a particular day. But some unreserved people also take the ticket on the station and then they travel. There it is very difficult to capture that how many unreserved tickets were sold and it belongs to a particular train, number one. Number two, when I book a ticket, today I am booking in the month of March for travel in the month of May. Now that money I have paid today. So in the system, the money has come today, but I am traveling in the month of May. So my money actually revenue has come today, but actual service has been provided in the month of May. So how do you link my today's revenue with that income? So like that, there are hundreds of thousands of problems of capturing the right revenue. Okay. Another example I give you, when a train goes from one zone to another, for example, a train runs from Delhi to Mumbai. It goes from the northern zone to the central zone, from central zone to the western zone. Okay, 3 different zones it travels. So what do they do? On that train, they have collected the revenue. Say, for example, they collected 1 lakh rupees. Now they have a system that there are terminal activities, I told you, at the original loading point, at the unloading point. There are terminal activities. So this is extra activity which is not done by the in-between stations. In-between stations don't do much of those activities. Okay. Majority of the, for example, these days, majority of the ticket booking is online. 95% of the ticket booking has been shifted into online. Only 5-7% are offline ticket booking, which are at the station are done. But in olden days, it was to be all ticket booking at the station only and all that. Now, which zone will get how much of, so the system is correct. We need to change that.
सर कनेक्शन का इशू है, वॉइस नहीं आ रही.
सर वॉइस प्रॉब्लम है सब.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Now it is good.
Sir, now audible, sir.
This is how the revenue capturing each line of business, line of segment and segment of service. It's a challenging task in the railway system and all that. Next. There are a lot of other complexities in revenue system. I'm not explaining all the. I have just given you a few examples. This is what the model process flow. ECC cost, as I told you, and the finance data and the cost driver data. It goes line of service or segment of service by ACC cost, goes to the divisional functional cost files. From where it is merged, zonal data and workshop data will come in terms of performance FCC files. Then it's consolidated and the final reports are generated in terms of cost files and all that. Next. This is the IT complete, how the train cost is worked out. This is a complete IT flow we had given, that how this functional cost component will be really computed in the IT driven system. Next. Next, Meloji. Or next, advantages and implementation of. First is value addition. It's a better cost distribution. We are not. We told the railway it cannot be 110% perfect system. There are some imperfections. Why? Because some of the data is very, very impossible to capture in a real perfect way. Because you don't have that kind, you cannot keep, for the purpose of my costing, you cannot start redrawing the railway system ab initio. It's not possible. We have to operate within the available system. So like that, there can be some small amount of imperfections in the data. So, but that imperfections are not going to affect the accuracy of the cost statement, which may affect only more than 0.5% of the accuracy or 1% of the accuracy. And data compilation will be now through IT integration. So this is the advantage. It is not going to be a manual data compilation, and it happens only, as I told you, in the after 1.5 years of the group. Flexible data processing, ensuring smooth flow of the cost data. Cost performance analysis are possible. We can analyze the data division-wise, zonal-wise, or activity-wise. For the purpose of cost control, we can compare the inter-zonal cost, we can compare the inter-workshop cost, we can compare the inter-activity cost, we can compare the station-wise cost, we can compare all those type of costs will be available. It's very easy to find out the. Okay. And therefore, for the purpose of managerial decision making, we have much detailed, robust costing system, which can give you more accurate and detailed costs to arrive at your proper costing system. For example, one of the issue which is flagged by repeatedly is that when on a particular track is overutilized, already you are running more than 110% of the track utilized. Now you want to one more train you want to add, a private company wants to run a train. And why do you want to charge the full cost on that? Your marginal cost is what? Fuel cost only? Or additional, there is a small amount of maintenance cost, there is no other cost. So should I allow that kind of additional activities? That only cost system, when you calculate all this kind of activities driven cost, depending on different sections and different components, then only it's possible. Fine. Next. So wide spectrum of well-segregated services and the freight and coaching will help in mapping the cost consumption pattern. Activity-based costing approach of joint cost distribution will improve the quality of the cost information. Integration with other operating IT systems will improve data reliability. Cost distribution methodology to be applied in the performance costing will bring new dimensions in the costing. which hitherto they were not following. Scenario, we were envisaging that once train is run from point A to B, the moment it reaches B, so within next 15 minutes, the profitability of that train should be on the dashboard of the railway minister or railway chairman or whosoever wants. So this is a kind of online system we have devised. Therefore, we are saying the real-time data will be captured. Real-time performance, real-time both performance and costing data will be captured, which will generate real-time reports in the dashboard. Fine, next. Implementation of will help the management obtain cost data for each activity cost center. This is all better control would help the sharpen the activities of traffic costing and the statistical branch. We have recommended that you have a separate costing cell created in each zone and each division. It's not going to help with the present, your system is not going to help. You have professionally qualified cost accountants, you have to engage in that costing cells. Because this type of present railway accounting service people who have very good understanding of accounting system, which was basically based on the government accounting system. They don't have that commercial approach. So we were recommended that you create a different framework for that. I think they are going to implement that. Fine, next. Gentlemen, there are certain very important implementation of this. How do you really manage your data, both your cost data and finance data and your operational data, and your IT integration and the modification in the existing applications is a challenging task. It's not easy. It's not simple. And mind that in the railways, a small error in the IT application can create huge problems for the operations. So they cannot afford any casual attitude in making changes in their systems. So they have to have perfection before they put in. They are already running those systems. So in the already operational systems, it's very difficult to make the type of changes we are asking for. Existing costing cells in the divisions and strengthening costing cells at zones, they don't have anything. They, as I told you, they don't have any qualified people. They don't understand costing and all that. There's a lot of training and upgrade the technical skill of set of people. Visualization of benefits or upgradation of the costing technique. People have to make the understand. Nobody is going to cooperate with you. If you want to implement the system, nobody is ready to change its routine. They don't want even one more page to be added in their creation. Nobody wants that. No employee wants to have any additionality created. So you have to, until you really put into their brain, it is for their help, it is for their benefit, it is going to improve their system, it is going to help them to get better in terms of what you call the productivity benefit which railway is paying today in terms of number of days. Today it may be 108 days, tomorrow it may become 120 days after my better costing system is in place. So like this, you have to have a complete understanding and go into the brain of everybody that this system is for their help. And of course, the hand-holding of the institute is very much important. It's very. So I have not put all those challenges. There are a lot of other challenges in implementation of such a system and all. The most important difficulty is IT part. CRIS is their only institution which is taking care of their IT, and CRIS is the most difficult institution to be. Even the railway senior people find it difficult to interact with CRIS. They have their own limitations. So, because the limitations are genuine, because as I told you, any small error in the IT application can create havoc in the country. So they cannot afford that. So we are accountants, we talk of this small change of ACC code, activity cost center code to be attached. So on a paper, it looks very simple. But when you do a change in the application costing, IT application, it requires thousands of subsystems to be modified. Thousands of subsystems to be modified. And anywhere you commit a mistake, the system will not run correctly. So you cannot afford that, because you cannot wait that for 10 days I close the railway operations, let me make the changes, then I will test, then I will restart. So that is also not possible. Not if you have 10 minutes I can close my operations. So how do you do that? So like this, there is a lot of challenging task of making the changes. Next. I think that should be the end of it. Yeah. So thank you very much, gentlemen. I just gave you an overview of what the system and what are the difficulties, what type of various contours we developed on the performance costing system in Indian Railways. But it was definitely a very challenging task, and its implementation is going to be rather more challenging. It's not going to be easy task and all that. I'm sure as and when we get more opportunities of interaction on this, we are going to share more knowledge on the system of performance costing system. Thank you very much. If you have any more questions, we can discuss.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
It was a very good session. And I think there are a lot of members who have asked questions. So before going to those questions, I would like to ask a few questions. So after we have suggested the changes in the performance costing system, there would be a lot of implementation challenges. So in those implementation, we are also involved, and if we are involved, how we are trying to do it. Can you, sir, please elaborate more on this?
Sankalp, in the government, the things move in a very structured and slow speed. For such a major change to bring in, it was not an easy task for the railway board also to examine, because as I told you, non-professional people are sitting there. For them to understand all this system and to accept, it was again itself a question mark for us. We were not very sure. So now the situation is they have first taken a
Can you please switch off the video, sir?
Accepting our report.
Not audible.
They asked us at how can you hear me?
हाँ, थोड़ा सा सर वो हो रहा है, कनेक्शन इशू हो रहा है.
कनेक्शन इशू क्यों हो रहा है?
एक बार या तो वीडियो ऑफ कर दें, तब आई थिंक ठीक हो जाएगा.
अच्छा, ठीक है. Okay. Is it better now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So they then asked us that if we have to now implement it, how do we go about? Step 1, step 2, step 3, like that. We gave them a complete chart. Step 1, what you have to do at the railway board level, what you have to do at the zonal level, what you have to do at the CRIS level, what we are going to. That is number 2. We have with them. They have yet to take a call, because we have told them that this railway, the costing system cannot be implemented without the involvement of all your different functional heads in the railway board. Everybody has to be involved. As we told the other day in the DFCCL also, that it is not possible to implement such a complex system unless everybody is on board. That. Third is that they have to engage the ICMA MARF again for the actual implementation. Now, in the actual implementation, there are going to be 2 major challenges. One challenge is that we have to give a training to their field people to make them understand what is this change, and this new data creation sheet which online, offline, whatever we have suggested, they have to create. We have to train them. Throughout the zone, throughout the country, we have to give them a training. And to the IT people, we have to give them a domain support to make the suitable changes in their different IT applications. Okay. Then we start thinking of, which we have said that will take at least a year's time, 1 year time, to actually do all these kind of changes. Then we will take another 6 months for testing the changed data, changed system. Then only we will be sure that in a particular zone, in one zone, the system is. But that decision has yet to start. It's not yet, the activity has not yet started. Okay.
So, sir, one of the members, Mr. Pradeep Kathuria, he has asked the question, was any study done how railways costing system work in other countries, and how is our system different from them? Can you elaborate on that?
See, we have done actually one thing, that this railway costing data is not very transparently available from the various global countries, number one. Number two, different countries have the different type of network. For example, in the Europe, you have the Euro-Rail network, which is all those countries put together. They have a combined network system, and within that they devise, and they have independent regulatory framework within that. So they have a regulator. In the America, they have different type of companies. Those are running the entire railway network or doing the operations. So they have so many companies. We have tried to, in Russia and China, have the state-controlled system, like in India, but there the control system is not exactly like in India. They have parallelly put what you call the corporation type of system. In Russia, some of the distance traffic has been privatized also long back. So I have some slides available on that Russian, Chinese and American system also. We did try to study, but there is a global World Bank study also available on the costing system in railways. But that is all talking of theory. It doesn't talk about exactly how systems have been in place. They are talking of principles only. Okay. So nowhere that exactly like in structural framework is available for any country which we could have studied. So you can say that my answer to that is almost nil. We did try and gather data, but that was not much of use.
Okay, sir. So one of the members, Mr. Arun Mehra, he's asking, in a large system of railways, how do you ensure that each zone and division acts in such a way that the implementation is smooth and problem-free? I think the implementation part is yet not been started for.
But we have given a very structured step-by-step approach for the railway to implement it. So it will be uniform in all the divisions and zones. It cannot be non-uniform. Implementation framework will be same. So you cannot say that each division or each zone will not operate on the same platform. They will operate on the same platform through the same IT system. So therefore, there is no question that there is going to be a different implementation framework for zone-wise or division-wise.
Sir, there may be, individuals who, or the management in each division or regions, their response. So how to bring consistency and harmonization that, due to individual approach to individual prioritization, such problems do not occur. That was my point.
Arun, Railway is an organization which is driven from the top. So any message which travels from the railway board, no zone, no division can dare to disown that message and not cooperate with the. We have practically done that. So there is no difficulty of that. Once a correct message travels, there is no such problem. You don't get this kind of difficulty. But yes, temporary field level, small person doesn't understand all this. That type of difficulties are part of the system. When you exercise a consultancy assignment, these are part of all these challenges. Say, clerical level person is not bothered about the minister saying anything and all that. He doesn't bother about it is only the officer who is sensible enough to understand all this, who will cooperate with you. But a mechanic is not bothered about all this. Okay? So those challenges will come, doesn't matter. These are part of the consulting assignments. You have to face these challenges. We did face a lot of difficulties.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
So another question from one of the members, Pradeep Kathuria ji. Which ERP is railway running? Based on the inputs of the performance costing system, have they changed the ERP data flow capturing?
No. Nothing. No change has been done so far.
And what was the ERP? CRIS system?
CRIS is having their own systems and all that. All CRIS systems. It's not the ERP system like that. No. IT, I mean, railway IT is not that easy to understand. It has a lot of complexities. It's not very simple that it's all based on a particular framework and all that. They have done a lot of their in-house R&Ds also on various systems. And well, I'm sure many advanced qualified people are working there, high level, in the CRIS organization, which are giving a lot of live support to the railway system. And therefore, it's very difficult to interact with the CRIS people and get inputs from them. What are they doing? They don't share with you very easily. We also found a lot of difficulty.
Sir, one of the questions that I had was, after the implementation after the performance costing system was, the final report was given, how was the response, overall response? Were they of a welcoming nature, or how do you think that the activity went?
Generally, Sankalp, they were very positive and welcoming and all that. Other thing is that in the railways system, the officers keep on changing. It's not that today A may be interacting with you, tomorrow B has come on the same. For now, anybody to appreciate. So it takes him time to first understand what is this system we have given. So a new officer, we have seen the last 4 years, 7 different officers sitting on interact with us. So every time we had a difficulty in making him understand what is this system. So that is another challenge in a government organization like this, where a lot of frequent transfers, postings do happen. Yeah, like Arun said, that everybody has its own limitations. Everybody has its own style of functioning. So that type of, but that we are used to these kind of things. Not very difficult. Fine. It takes a little more time. It takes a little more patience for you to make them understand that. Once they understand, they are all appreciating it. They are all welcoming it.
Now, I would like if anybody in the audience would like to ask any question, so please let us know.
Sir, Railway have any training program for our CMA students? Because this is the organization where requires so much cost accountant and so much costing data. So if our students working as a trainee and something getting the real time of the this training session,
gentlemen, they don't have any cost accountant. We have recommended them to create a different costing cell and recruit the cost.
Okay,
so far
okay,
they don't have.
Okay.
Maybe anybody
Okay, sir, I understand.
Really qualified is it?
Yes. Okay, thank you.
I think Sankalp, we call it a day.
Yes. So, Hani ji, can you give a formal vote of thanks?
Thank you, B B Goyal sir. We have had an extremely useful and knowledgeable afternoon talk on the topic performance costing system for the Indian Railway. It is my pleasure to deliver a vote of thanks as this is the need of the hour. On any given occasion, there will always be people who exert so much effort for the success of any event. Hence, an event cannot be successful without a wonderful audience. I take this opportunity to extend the sincere thanks to all the CMA who attended and spared their time for this session. I am sure that all the participants will benefit from today's session. Thank you all the participants. The very presence of the speaker, Shri CMA B B Goyal sir, in today's program is a reflection of importance and attached to the commitment of success of today's event. Thank you so much, sir. Center Delhi CP Study Circle extends a very hearty thanks to you as agreed to be present today, and you inspired and motivated all of us and made this webinar a grand successful event. I also thankful to CMA Sankalp Wadhwa sir, convener Center Delhi CP Study Circle and Study Circle team for arranging such a good webinar and topic. Hopefully we will do more program in future also. Thank you all very much. With this note, we close the today's session and hope we will meet next event very soon. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Sankalp ji. Thank you very much. I think this was a very informative, very creative for all the professionals also to, whenever they have an assignment to proceed in the way Mr. Goyal or the entire team, they proceeded and presented the report. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Clear sir.
थैंक यू शंकर
Thank you,
जी,
everyone.
थैंक यू हनी जी। बहुत सारे इस तरीके से जो प्रोग्राम हमारे कॉस्ट अकाउंटेंट के लिए वर्किंग में आने हैं, आप अगर इन पे लेके आते हैं, क्योंकि हम लोग वर्किंग प्लेस पे हैं तो हम डायरेक्टली चैप्टर्स और उनको नहीं डील कर पाते, बट अगर आप सैटरडे संडे इस तरीके की चीजों को लेके आते हैं तो ये बहुत ही अच्छा है और आप सभी लोगों को बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सर।
Thank you.
सर संकल्प जी, अब इसकी पूरी रिपोर्ट के लिए जो है या डिटेल्ड रिपोर्ट के लिए फॉर फुल वन डे we अगर required हो तो I think we should do it because this is an area the railways so complexities are there as Mr. Goyal has already brought out. This will definitely help all the professionals to do their best in other areas also.
Yes, I also feel that different institute chapters and study circles should take this program and should invite B B Goyal sir so that he can give a very elaborate discussion.
Sir, can you put this the video recording on the website?
Yes, we put all the video recordings on the website
of the institute.
Of the study circle.
Study circle
programs.
Okay, the study circles, then the address for the study circle website?
That I share with everyone generally.
Okay. That will be great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
We are closing the meeting.
Thank you all.
Okay.